The wall between our apartments wasn't just made of brick and plaster, it was built from the rubble of my own silence. For 2 years, Kylan had been a ghost in my own life, the echoes of a past failure ringing so loudly in my ears that I had become deaf to the world. My days were a monochrome loop of work, from home drudgery and solitary evenings, the vibrant city life outside my window feeling like a movie I wasn't in, and on the other side of that wall lived Ilara, a woman whose laughter was a melody that somehow pierced my soundproofed existence, a constant, gentle reminder of a life I was too afraid to touch. Our interactions were fleeting, polite scripts performed in the hallway. A nod, a good morning, the exchange of a misplaced package. She was a burst of color in my grey-scale world, with paint smudges often decorating her hands, and a warmth in her eyes that felt like a threat to the icy fortress I'd built around my heart. I convinced myself that my quiet admiration from a distance was enough, that the chasm between us was too wide to cross. My struggle was internal, a war waged between a longing for connection and the paralyzing fear of being seen, truly seen, and found wanting once again. If you believe in the power of kindness and the beauty of second chances, please show some love to this channel. Like, comment, share, and subscribe to GRNP's Berg to help us keep sharing stories that matter. The shift began on a rain-soaked Tuesday afternoon. A pipe burst in the ceiling above her apartment, and the frantic knocking on my door was the first unscripted sound of our relationship. I opened it to find Ilara, her face flushed with panic, droplets of water glistening in her dark hair. "I'm so sorry, there's water everywhere, and I can't get the main valve to turn," she pleaded. For a moment, my old instincts screamed at me to mutter an apology and close the door, to stay in my safe, dry bubble. But the genuine distress in her eyes broke something open inside me. I followed her into her apartment, a space that was the absolute antithesis of my own. Canvases leaned against walls, splashed with bold, emotional colors, books lay open on every surface, and the air smelled of turpentine and jasmine. It was chaotic and alive and beautiful. I managed to wrestle the stubborn valve shut, my hands getting soaked in the process. Standing there in her vibrant, waterlogged world, she looked at me not with pity or mere gratitude, but with a genuine, dazzling warmth. "Thank you, Kylan. You're my hero," she said, and for the first time in years I felt a flicker of something other than failure. That small act became a crack in the dam. A week later I returned the book of poetry she'd left in the lobby. Another week after that, she knocked on my door, holding 2 mugs of steaming tea, saying she'd made too much. Our conversations, once confined to the hallway, began to migrate. They started in her doorway, then just inside mine. Each visit a little longer, each shared silence a little more comfortable. I found myself talking, really talking, about things I had sealed away. I told her about my failed business, the betrayal by a partner I trusted, the shame that had made me a recluse. She didn't offer empty platitudes, she just listened, her presence a balm. She shared her own dreams and fears, her struggle to be taken seriously as an artist, the loneliness that sometimes visited her despite her vibrant exterior. We were 2 incomplete puzzles, and somehow in our broken places, we began to fit. The culmination came on a golden, late spring evening. She had invited me over to see her latest painting, a stunning, abstract piece that swirled with deep blues and fiery oranges. "I call it the Thaw," she said softly, her eyes holding mine. We were standing in the middle of her sun-drenched living room, the fading light casting long shadows. The air between us was thick with something unspoken, a tension so palpable I could feel it humming in my veins. My old fears surfaced one last time, a final, desperate whisper telling me to retreat, that I wasn't worthy of this, that I would ruin it. I took a half step back, my voice barely a whisper as I made a feeble excuse about needing to go. She looked at me, her gaze seeing straight through the walls I was desperately trying to rebuild. Her expression was soft, understanding, but unwavering. "Kylan," she said, her voice low and steady, cutting through the static of my fear. "Come closer. It's hard to hear you from there." And in that moment, everything shifted. The last of my resistance crumbled. The distance between us wasn't just physical, it was the embodiment of all my self-doubt. Closing it felt like the bravest thing I had ever done. I took one step, then another, until I was standing right before her, close enough to see the flecks of gold in her green eyes, close enough to feel the warmth of her breath. She didn't say another word. She simply reached up, her hand gently cupping my cheek, and leaned in. Her kiss was not a question, but an answer. It was gentle and sure, a silent promise that I was seen, I was heard, and I was worth staying for. It was the end of a long, lonely winter, and the breathtaking beginning of a spring I never thought I'd deserve. If this story found a way to touch your heart, if you've ever believed in the transformative power of a single moment, please let us know in the comments. Your engagement helps stories like this find their way to those who need them most. As the golden light of the setting sun filled the room, wrapping around us like a blessing, I finally understood. Sometimes the most profound journeys are not across oceans, but across the space between two people, a space that can be bridged by a single, courageous step, and a voice that asks you to come home. We would be honored if you would take a moment to share your own story of a moment that changed everything in the comments below. Your journey might be the inspiration someone else needs to hear today.